You mentioned your perceptions of China were different than after having lived in China. But what were your perceptions of China like before you came? And what was your transition to knowing what China was really like?
Well, like I said, I had a trading company, and I lived in Las Vegas when I first flew to China. And I had a trading company, but I never went to China. I was doing everything through global sources. You remember global sources? It was the precursor to like Alibaba, and so I was kind of managing relationships with people overseas and thinking that I knew everything, and then I had some quality control issues and things fell apart, and I had to go to China, and then. I remember I went to Hong Kong and I went to Guangzhou for the Canton Fair, and I met a client and an agent at the Canton Fair, and I didn't know nothing. I mean, I didn't speak. The only thing I knew how to say was "wo shuo de bu hao." That was about it, And I remember I studied that phrase so much that when I spoke it. It was very fluid, People
were like, "Oh, so he speaks really well."
"Oh, you speak really well." You said I speak really well, But I'm like, that's it. That's all I got. that Pijo,
Right.
So, but I remember my preconceived notions of China was this is alien.
Oh.
This is a different place. This is not on the earth that I know. You know what I mean? Almost not on Earth. And I remember sitting on the plane with some expats that were going to China and a couple on the way back that were coming back. And I remember specifically on the way back from my first trip, I was talking with a guy who had first enlightened me to the idea of living in China. And he was, no, you know what? It was the train from Hong Kong to Shenzhen. I was on the train with a guy, and I was talking to him, and he was like, I had just moved to China, and you know how when you move to China and you're actually moving there, and official capacity, you can move one container of your stuff, like 120-foot container. There's like this weird legality where you can like move tax-free one collection of your goods if you're truly going to be a resident in China. And at the time there was this thing, and he was moving, and he was telling me about all of this stuff, and I just looked at him like, you live in China? Like you can live here? What are you talking about? And I remember going home, and that made such a huge impression on me. And I started looking at books on visas and like trying to. That was before YouTube. That was before. So
it was like a challenge for you. You're like, if he can do it, I can do it.
Right. I started thinking a whole new way. That's why YouTube's so great, because you can provide people that sit. With that, like that guy gave me a real inspiration for what life could be, and now YouTube can do that in so many different ways, in bad ways too, but in a lot of good ways as well.
Wow.
Well, how long did it take you to actually get used to living in China? Was there a period of shock?
Probably a year.
That's a long period of shock.
Well, what kind of things shocked you? What for Americans who are considering moving to China now? What kind of things might surprise them?
A lot less than when I moved there. I mean, China has evolved a lot.
Right.
When I moved there, it was like I said, we didn't have the YouTube, the opportunity to see people's lives and learn from the experiences of others. We had to kind of get out there and get into the nitty gritty. A lot of less people spoke English, and there, you went to a lot of if you were like me and you were doing business, you were going to a lot of meetings, drinking a lot of baijiu, drinking a lot of tea, and smoking a lot of cigarettes, and that was just the way that things were. At that period of time, you're going to a lot of KTV and feeling very uncomfortable at this weird place. And the food wasn't a big deal. I love every flavor you can shove down my throat. I will enjoy it. As a matter of fact,
Chou tofu.
Chou tofu. That's a one. Wow, you bring up the one.
Yes, because that's my one. Yeah.
Matt even loves pidan, which is the 1,000-year eggs.
Oh yeah, you gotta love pidan.
Like
it's fantastic.
I don't dislike
most people don't
them,
even
but they're
try
not,
it.
Yay on my
They're
top
so unique.
10.
Yeah. People don't try. People would love it. Actually, the consistency is it's almost like pate. It's it's really, really good.
It's only the color. But anyhow.
Yeah.
So.
I've had them.
It's a black.